Hey, and happy Homebrew Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. I got plenty of homebrew on tap, but I need this for later, so let's get into it. Gonna leave a little bit in the bottle because I need the dregs. It smells great. I want to give a big shout out to Mark. Everybody knows him as Intermezzo. He stopped by a few weeks ago while he was over here in Europe, and we spent the day on my patio just shooting the shit and talking, having a great time. One of the few guys that I know that have traveled around the world more than I have. Great guy, just a great down-to-earth, great guy to hang out with, and just had a good time. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I really truly appreciate it. Cheers, Mark. Also, I want to give a big shout out to the top 3 winners for the European leg of the SJ Pour Challenge. Dan Smith, another Norwegian, or another guy living here in Norway. Also to Brian Muyadi. I hope I didn't butcher your name, sir. These guys brewed up some great beers. Dan did a porter, and Brian did a mix. Actually, he did a blend of a pale ale and an IPA, I think, or it was 2 different pale ales that had contributed some great flavors. If you haven't watched those reviews, go ahead and watch them back. I got them in the playlist for the 2014 SJ Pour Challenge. So go ahead and check those out. But cheers to you guys. Cheers to everybody who participated. Big, huge shout out and thanks to Frederick for helping me out with the shipping and doing the shipping hub. He inadvertently became a major gold sponsor for actually helping with the shipping to go out to all of the EU members. So really truly appreciate that. Thanks a lot, everyone. Good luck next year. Cheers. So as you see on the timeline, it's quite a long Homebrew Wednesday. So I'll just go ahead and skip to it. I got a lot of brew footage. I did the Westvleteren 12 clone. It was a pretty interesting brew day. So without further ado, go ahead, check it out. Hi, today I'm brewing up the Westy 12 clone. Yeah, been wanting to do this one for a while, so let me go ahead and show you the recipe. We'll take it from there. Alright, so my Westvleteren 12 clone. The basics are I'm trying to get about, I'm using just pale malt and Pilsner malt. I'm using about 55% pale malt and 45% Pilsner malt. That's just the grain ratio. But a lot of the other sugar contributions are coming from down here. Using a pound of candy sugar, dark candy sugar, at 90 minutes. I am doing a 90-minute boil. And then I won't add in any more sugar until 5 minutes before flame out. And then that'll be a pound of the D180. So for bittering today, I'll be using Northern Brewer in order to get 26 IBUs. At 20 minutes, I'll be using Styrian Golden in order to get about 7.7 IBUs. And then at 10 minutes, I'll be using the Hallertau to get 4.3 IBUs for a total of around 38. I want 38 IBUs for this beer. For my post-boil gravity, I'm trying to get to 1091. Let's see, take a look over here. So I've got the D180s and the brown sugar, or the dark candy sugar that's going into the beginning of the boil. Only about a pound of that's going in, so a little bit less than half. Using Northern Brewer here for bittering, Styrian Goldens for flavor, and Hallertau for aroma. Why I have 2 D80s is because one of these is going in at 5 minutes left in the boil. The other one is actually going to go into secondary. Let's see if we can zoom in on this here. Here we go. The fermentation is very special on this one, where I'm starting off at 18 degrees Celsius, which is right around 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And then over the course of 5 days, it's going to increase to 28 degrees Celsius and about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So I should reach that within 5 days, or it'll reach the 28 degrees Celsius, just after a couple days. It'll stay there for 5 days, and primary fermentation should then be complete. And then I'll bring the temperature back down to 18 degrees Celsius, or 65 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I'll keep it there just for 2 days until I reach my final gravity after secondary. I'm hoping to get 10-13, and then I'll keg it and let the keg store for about 50 days, or just over nearly 2 months. And yeah, after that I'll bottle it and store it for minimum probably 6 months, but more likely a year to a year and a half before sharing them. But yeah, that's the program for today. So let's get started. So I've already grained in, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through the mash at this point. And yeah, I've stirred it up a couple times. Looking at it, I'm hovering right around 67 degrees Celsius for mash. So I want a medium body on this one, kind of on the lighter end. So I'm shooting for about 66 and a half to 67, going for a light medium body. And yep, gonna continue to do this for a while, just a little while longer, and then I'll start transferring to the boil kettle, where we'll then top it up, start to boil, get the hot break, and then add in the first addition of sugar. Okay, so we got everything raised up to our mash out temperature of 75 degrees in the HLT, pumping it through on top of the grain bed in the mash tun. It's coming out through the pumps and up into the boil kettle. And as you can imagine, 50% pale, 50% Pilsner. It's a pretty light beer. We'll be darkening it up here pretty quick with some dark Belgian sugar. Yep. Okay, so I've been boiling for about 30 minutes now. It's the 60-minute mark, and I am going to add in 38.1 grams of Northern Brewer. I've already added in the Brew Firm dark candy syrup, and it did darken it a little bit, but not so much actually. So looking forward to what the D180 will do. Alright, next top addition at the 20-minute mark. Alright, so we are currently 70 minutes into the boil, 20 minutes left. Time for 30 grams of Styrian Goldens. There we go. Alright, 5 more minutes and the Westvleteren tablet and yeast nutrient will go in. Alrighty, 15 minutes, Westvleteren tablet. We're using Y yeast today. About a teaspoon and a half. Okay, 10 minutes left in the boil. Time for 30 grams of Untitled Chapter. There we go. Going on in there. Alright, so 5 minutes before putting in the D180. Okay, time to add in the D180. Instead of using this, I'm just going to cut it off. pretty much gone. Alright, a couple minutes before flame out. Okay, so the boil is over. Now I'm pumping it into the fermenter. You can sort of see the color. It's a lot darker than it was before the D180. It's still not looking as dark as a Westy 12, but I think the second pound of D180 going into the secondary is going to make it even darker. So yeah, I'll show you pictures of that probably in a week. There we go, to the chiller. Pretty dark. Today I was targeting 1091. I came in right on 1090, and that's okay. I still have to add in another pound of D180 sugar, so that's going to come in to the secondary. Try and dissolve that in some water and equal out to a 1090 solution before putting it into secondary, so there should be some congruency there between it. Yeah. A little bit dark here in the office, so the light came on, but you can see that's nice and creamy in there. Inside there I've got 2 vials of the WLP 530, the Abiel yeast from White Labs, which is the West Molly strain. So yeah, let's go ahead and put this in the fermenter. Alright, so here we go. Here's the 2 vials of the WLP 530 that went into the starter. Always remember, have an extra magnet on hand to capture your stir bar so that doesn't fall into the solution. Just take a minute to take that out. Oh. Great. Let's go ahead. Push it around really good. Just dump it all in there. All right. Just take this off a little bit. Alright, she's on there. Okay. So I got out with 24 liters. That's not a lot of headspace there for a head, but we'll see how that goes. I think I might be in for a little bit of a blow off. I hope not. We'll see. But yeah, check back later. Alright, so I'm just going to come out and say it. I officially hate brewing with sugar. If I had better tools maybe, or if I could rely on the tools more, I might be happier. But anytime I put sugar into Beersmith, my numbers never match up to what I actually get. So today, using the pale malt and Pilsner malt, you know, the extract from that was pretty accurate when I used that in a recipe alone, just those. Because in the Westy 12 recipe that I used, when I added in the sugars, you know, the total amounts came up to my post-boil gravity should be, you know, 1091. Now, as you probably already saw, I came out right at 1090, but that was with a little bit of extra help by more of the dark syrup that I put in first at the beginning of the boil. I used the Brew Firm dark sugar syrup. So instead of using just a pound of that, in order to reach my peat boil gravity target should have been 1063. I think I came in like at 1055, something like that. And that was after I included the first pound of that dark syrup. So I went ahead and used the whole liter, actually. And that brought me right up there. That brought me right at like 1061, 1063. So it was pretty close. So I used those numbers in order to determine my gravity units, and then use that to determine where I should stop off in the boil. So continuing on, the evaporation rate was on target with what I normally expect, but for some reason the volumes were off. So when I hit 90 minutes on my boil, I had actually only I'd only reached a gravity of 1085, so I still had 6 points to go. So I let it boil a little bit longer. Actually ended up boiling it for 2 hours, so an additional 30 minutes, and that brought my gravity up to 1090. So with that, the IBUs of course are going to be greater because they have more utilization in a boil. So I got to account for that. So instead of 38, maybe they'll be somewhere between 43 and 48, somewhere around there. I got to calculate it out. But so that's going to be off. So in terms of cloning this thing, no, not a chance. But it is going to be an interesting brew. Also, so what's going to happen now is I'll let that primary ferment. I'll do the temperature rise. Right now it's at 18 Celsius, about 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And over the course of the next 5 days, that's going to increase to 28 degrees Celsius, 72, 73 degrees Fahrenheit. And then after that, I'll bring it, once it reaches a gravity of about 1018, then I'll bring it back down to about 20 Celsius, between 18 and 20 Celsius. And then at that point, I'll go ahead and add in another pound of the D180. Now the color on it is going to be darker, which I want. So let me show you why. So here's the color that came out on the brew day today. As you can see, it's a pretty light brown. It's like a light dunkel. So I definitely want it darker than that. Now if you remember seeing it was really yellow going into the boil kettle. Then I added in the dark syrup. That made it a little bit darker, but not a lot. Actually, I was kind of surprised. But when I added in the D180, I mean, it went really dark. So that was really cool. So I'm really looking forward to adding in more of the D180 in order to make it even darker, closer to what this beer is supposed to be. So that's primary fermentation and secondary fermentation. So on Tuesday, I'll be adding in the dregs from 2 Westvleteren Trappist doubles. So I got 2 of them here, and the dregs from this are actually going to go into the fermenter. So hopefully the yeast from these dregs, which will be reused yeast, I understand that those characteristics that the yeast really add some character to the beer. So really looking forward to doing that. So primary fermentation, ramping it up. On the 3rd day, I'll put in the dregs of these. It'll stay about 28 for until it reaches the gravity of 1018. Then I'll bring it back down slowly to 20, and then hopefully it'll reach a target final gravity of 1013, and then I'll crash it at 50 Celsius for about 30 to 50 days, probably 50 days. So yeah, after that, they'll be going in the bottles, staying there for at least 6 months before I taste the first one, and then probably a year to a year and a half after that. So all in all, it was not exactly a straightforward brew day. It was kind of tricky, but still it was really nice. I mean, trying to troubleshoot those little nuances, really sort of keeps you on your game. So sorry I didn't record more of it, but I was pretty busy and just trying to make sure all of the numbers matched where they were supposed to. Well, another successful brew day. Kettles are all clean, ready for the next brew. Almost, not quite. I'm going to do some cleaning. So I've taken out some of the fittings, most of the fittings that touch the wort, and from the mash to the boil kettle. The HLT is only water. I've inspected the elements. They all look really clean, but did notice some buildup on all of the fittings between the kettles, the pumps, this pump, and then this kettle. So I went ahead and took all those out. And those are soaking in a nice bath of PBW. So I'll leave them here for probably overnight. Then I'll come down and scrub them really hard and then soak them inside Star Sand for a couple hours. So yeah, the cleaning regimen. Alright, so here's the washing routine. So every 5 or 10 brews or so. Now it's just time to take all these dirty parts. This one just happens to be the inside the pump, the rotor from inside the pump. So just use a simple toothbrush. Get right in between them really good. Get out any of the gunk that might be there. Got some PBW here. Got some rinsing solution, and then some Star Sand over here to sanitize it afterwards. So I've been cleaning this piece up quite a bit now. It's looking really good. I'll just rinse it off, put it in the Star Sand, let it sit there till I'm done. In addition to using the toothbrush, I've also got a really small wire brush here that I use for mainly the sight glasses on the kettles, but you can also use them. They fit perfectly inside here for the pump housing. Clean those out really good. A little bit of gunk in there. And you know, you wouldn't think that you'd have any gunk inside these things at all, because I do thoroughly rinse them with PBW, you know, probably good for a good half an hour after each brew. And then after that, I rinse through with some water. And then after that, I rinse through with some Star Sand. So they've got quite a cleaning regimen going through them, but there is still some residue that builds up on these things. So next I'll take off all the tape and retape it, and then put all this stuff back together. So for the ball valves, it's got this little end on it that you can take off. You turn the handle to the side, and then the ball will fall out. So you can go ahead and get a really good cleaning on the inside of there, and then just rinse it off, Star Sand it, and you're ready to go again. This is 3 hours after pitching the yeast. Here we are 12 hours later. I came in this morning and the airlock was dry. All the Star Sand had been bubbled out, I guess. So I put some water back in there and got pretty good crowns in it. 15 hours after fermentation began. 20 hours later, and the airlock has been replaced with a blow-off tube. The airlock was getting stuffy with some yeasties. Probably won't be long before the blow-off tube is as well. Alright, so you've only had to have gone through this type of blow-off once to know that you need to take precautions. So here we are, about 22 hours in. So we're about 33 hours after the start of fermentation. Clamps are still holding. The yeast has reached the top. You can see there's a bit of pressure, but there's a small leak. Yeasties are wanting to get out. You can hear it on the top crackling like Crispies. Snap, crackle, pop. It's alive. Alright, so we're going to try and take some pressure out of here. Then I don't want to take the whole top off, I'm just going to take out the blow-off tube. And hopefully it does not sort of explode around me. Alright, so I got some star sand here. Just going to put some star sand up there. Hopefully it doesn't fall in. So what I'm going to do is lift up the blow-off, put the funnel in, and drop in the dregs from 2 of the Westvleteren Trappist doubles. Alright. Let's do this. Oy, bit of a spill. Clean that up after. Here goes. Okay, there's one. There's 2. Starting to get some foam up here. Great. I'll just put the top back in there. Doesn't look like it's actually right up at the top, so that's okay. Fine. Clean this off a little bit. There, that wasn't so bad. Okay, so there you go. I went ahead and dumped in the dregs from those 2 Westvleteren doubles into the Westvleteren 12 clone, and it's at 28 degrees Celsius. It will stay there now until Thursday. Today is Tuesday night, and so it's actually gonna 2 more days at 28, and then I'll decrease the temp down to 20 degrees Celsius and let it sit there probably for at least another 2 to 3 days. But most likely, I mean, it's got a crowns and it's like, you know, probably 4 inches high. I'll leave it there until it reaches a specific gravity of 1.018. Then what I'll do is I'll actually dilute the D180 into a solution till it gets down to 1.090 and add that into the secondary and then rack on top of the secondary. Give it a little gentle stir and just let it set for as long as it takes to get down to a final gravity of 1.013. That's my target. So with luck, that's going to happen. Now, one last thing I want to talk about is this guy. I brewed a double batch for the UK Smash Off. If you remember that, 2014 Spring Smash Off. I did a double batch of a Centennial Pale Ale. Okay, it was a hoppy Pale Ale. I give you that. But one batch turned out great, and that one entered into the competition. The other 5 gallons wasn't quite right. There was something wrong with it, and I was looking for some hints, some knowledge, some tips from the community. And I asked Dan ABA, and he said, you know, try throwing some Brett on it. You never know, maybe it will be able to clean it up. So I did that. That was back in January, I think. It was January or early February. And so I pitched some Brett Trois, WLP, Brett Trois, whatever it is, I forget. But yeah, it's been in there for 8 months now, 7, at least 7 months. And I've been promising that I would do a taste test on this about 6 months after, and so I'm a little bit overdue. I have not tasted it, but I did give it a whiff. I'm going to give it another whiff and tell you what I think. Here it goes. It's got some of that Brett fruity character to it, and I get that Centennial hopness through it. It smells fresh, fruity, with that sort of Brett twist to it. There's just a hint of like barnyard. I'm going to go ahead and give it a sip, and I'll tell you what I think. Cheers. Okay. Smells great, but some of that off flavor that I tasted when I pitched the Brett, it's still there. It's very dry. It's really dry. But that off flavor is there. It's so dry I want to say it's cardboard. But it's not cardboard, like it's been oxidized. It's kind of like a muskiness, which really kind of throws me because the other batch turned out fantastic. I think the only difference was the yeast. In one, I think I used California Ale 5, WLP 51, and then the other one I used WLP 002, or it was 007. I forget. But, okay. I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to see if I can blend it out. I got 2 batches, 10 gallons, of the Galaxy and the Eldorado from last brew day that is about to be dry hopped, probably tomorrow. And then maybe I'll try and blend it with a little bit of this and see what I think. Dan, great advice. We gave it a try. It's definitely it's different than when it was back in earlier this year, but there's still that characteristic in there that's just lingering. It's probably 35% the intensity of what it was, but it's still there a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna put this away. Gotta finish up this double. So guys, I hope you guys are having a hell of a week. Watch the 2014 SJ Port Challenge beer reviews. They're coming in now from the UK, New Zealand, the US is finishing up. Canada's on a roll. So, this thing is coming close to the international leg of it, and really looking forward to who else is going to participate for that challenge. So, yeah, it's going to be a great time. It's a blast. It's just such a blast to see this thing unravel. It's fantastic. With that said, guys, I hope you're having a hell of a week. Have a better weekend. Cheers.